Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and this week we are back on the Alfarrari and continuing work on the sound deadening inside. Alright guys, welcome back, and those watching last week will have seen that I started doing the sound deadening on the interior of the Alfarrari, and I think it's a really important part of the car. If you missed it, I'll put a link up above so you can catch up and think about subscribing. It does help out the channel. Sound deadening, I think, is a very important part of the car. Like I did mention, doing things like just having it set up as a stripped out race car can look really good in photos, all painted and nice and pretty, but they're generally very horrible to drive around in. Like, it's just so loud, and you can only tolerate it for so long. Maybe I'm getting older, but yeah, I think I want this car to be usable regularly, and I don't want to look at it and go, oh, I can't be bothered driving that today. It's just, I want something easier. I don't want to have that mindset. I want to be able to have a look at it and go, yes, I want to drive that again today, because it does everything the way I need it to. I can drive it daily. I can take it on a road trip. I can have some fun on a track day. Bit of everything. This car, I want to do a bit of everything. It's going to be, yeah, everything's a compromise, but in this case, I want to make it as comfortable as possible. A couple of things about the sound deadening. A lot of people are asking about the mass-loaded vinyl and how it actually goes fitting in with the car. Like I mentioned, this butyl rubber, it does a certain amount, but just covering it everywhere, it's only limited. It only does one type of the sound. You need to have multiple types of sound barriers, and that is where the heavy mass-loaded vinyl comes in. So the mass-loaded vinyl is it's not light. It does add weight to your build. So some people keep striving for the lightest car possible. This stuff weighs about 4 kilos a square meter. So say there's 5 square meters in the inside of this car. I'm guesstimating. That means it's probably adding about 20 kilos to the build. And even on a 1,000 kilo car, I see that as 2% of the weight. 2% of the total weight to make a car comfortable. You're really not going to notice much difference as far as the lightweight of the car driving, but the end result is going to be much more comfortable interior. So I am really happy with this, how it works in Harry, my 911. Besides the fact that the exhaust is really loud, that is something that I need to work on. But I'm going to continue with this today, going through and just adding more bits of this sound deadening. Now, the thing with sound, basically you want to try and get this mass-loaded vinyl everywhere. Imagine that the inside of this cabin is a bucket and you've got to fill it with water. Anywhere water will seep out, sound will get in. Sound will get in any crack, any gap. You want to try and completely seal it all up, because sound will make its way through any little crevice. So we're trying to get complete coverage. Now, making it watertight or sound tight is not really possible. It's very difficult to get to that level compared to modern cars, just with these old cars, just the way that the frames are built and stuff like that. The sound seals, the glass, everything is not as quiet. But we want to try and do as good a job as we can. So I'm going to work around now and see if I can get as solid of a coverage over everything. Door trims and the side trims and stuff I'll tackle later when I'm at the trimming stage. But before we get into this, I think I need to jump over and do something about the paint that I've been putting off. So those watching a couple of weeks ago will have seen that when I did my final flow coat, I did some touch-ups in the silver, and I hit it with the tack cloth before I painted it, which usually is not a bad thing. Basically, the tack cloth is a sticky cloth that picks up any bits of dust on the surface before you paint, to try and stop yourself getting contaminants in the paint. The trouble is that with metallics, when you sort of dust and spray metallics on, the metallics all sit up in a certain way, and as soon as you wipe it, it will sort of sit them over in a direction, and you see that. So it looks like there's white marks all over just the bonnet and the boot. The rest of it is good. It doesn't really have any issues. It's just really the bonnet and the boot. So I'm going to go take them off now. We can sand them back, touch them up, and paint them again. So that's what I'm going to tackle first. Let's start disassembling. All right, so we have the bonnet and the boot sanded down, and also the wheel flare that I stuffed up earlier. They're all ready to repair. They're all masked up, so now it's time to go through, dust in any yellow touch-ups I need to do. Every time I paint it, I seem to get another little piece of dust in it. And when you look up close, there's a little black speck. So I have to get rid of it each time. It's driving me crazy. Just trying to get it as good as I can. There's still always going to be stuff in it because it's me. But time to get out now and do the yellow base and then the fly yellow before we unmask, do the silver and clear it and have them done. Let's not stuff it up this time. All right, and we finally have the bonnet and the boot painted, looking much better. Like always, there's a couple of little bits of dust in here around the place. Where can I see? There's little bits of dust around here. I don't know if the camera's going to really pick it up, but nothing drastic. It's all workable. So we have the painting done, and I can move on from this stuff. A cut and a buff, and it'll be good. So let's unmask it and then move back over to the car and doing some more sound deadening. All right, so now it's time to get back onto the sound deadening, and as you saw last week, I got sort of the difficult part up underneath in the firewall done, and that's looking pretty good. It goes all the way up to the top. There is still this bit around the plenum on the dash. Now the firewall goes up behind that, all the way up, so I've done in behind that, but there's still whatever resonance is going to come through the sort of the plenum where the wipers mechanism and everything goes. Anyway, I've got to try and cover that, but we'll leave that for now. Now I want to get onto the tunnel, because I want to do the tunnel next, and then we can do the floor pads after that. So now let's get in with a bit more of this mass loaded vinyl with the closed cell foam on it, and cover over the tunnel and see if we can get a nice sort of seal the whole way along the center. Because if that goes in first and then the floor goes on top, it'll sort of lock the floor in and make it sort of a nice sealed area. All right, so the tunnel is getting there. I've glued it all down with the this spray adhesive. Car builders do this as well, and it works really well. Nice, really good quality contact adhesive. And they sent me some of this clear stuff. I can't remember what it's called, but basically it's like a clear woven plastic sheet that's quite strong, but it means that I can do some templating with this. So I can lay this over, see through it, because the mass loaded vinyl is really thick. You can't actually see what you're doing. Once you cover over it, you can't really see where you're trimming. So this stuff is going to go nicely to help me finish off the rest of this tunnel now and make some templates to make this stuff fit really nicely. All right, so the tunnel is looking really good. That's all covered now. And the only thing I've got left is my tunnel window. Obviously, I put this in so that I can get in and out and change the starter motor and get to the top bell housing bolts, which I couldn't get to otherwise. But obviously, I want this to be covered in sound deadening, but I also need it to be removable. So what I plan on doing is I want to put a larger section of this mass-loaded vinyl over it, but I want to trim off the foam around the edge so the mass-loaded vinyl overhangs and overlaps all the way around, but I can still peel it back and get to the bolt. So it's sort of, it covers, but it's removable, and that's the plan now. Okay, so we have the footwells done, and what I've done when I went around on the edges, I did a similar thing where I trimmed back the foam where it leans up against the other stuff, just so that I get a nice even transition and it'll sort of sit up there nicely. I haven't glued this in yet, and in the driver's side I still have to cut out the holes for the pedals, but I can do that when I'm ready to fit the pedals. That's not too big of an issue. I'm not going to glue these footwell parts down just so I can get into them and make that space right. So I've still got to work out what I'm doing as far as the sound deadening around this cover, as this is the access to where my clutch and brake fluid reservoirs are. As far as moving back, because I have this reinforcing bar in here now, the way I'm going to tackle this, I'm going to lay it flat in this area here. That will remove some of the height of this bump and sit it all over down in this area here. I've got to make some flat panels here first, so I'll make these back panels, and then the top, this extra sort of part will sit in on either side. So let's cut them out now. All right, so now I'm going to make a sheet to go over the parcel shelf and drape down with the size of the panels I've got. I can get it to sort of come down to just the sort of the height of the bottom of where the back seat would normally go. So it's a perfect size. So I'll make a template for that up now. But before I do that, I want to go through these little holes here, the hatches. I don't actually have panels for them, so I have to make them up at some stage, but they've sort of been beaten around a bit because that's where my rotisserie bolted on. So I'm just going to get the hammer and dolly out, just tidy them up. I'll probably wreck the paint a little bit, so I'll just give them a quick touch up, and then we can start getting our sheet for the back and getting all these areas all tidied up. I actually took some measurements out of what I need to do for these cover panels. I don't actually have them. I don't know where they went when I had this car, but I took some measurements. I'm going to transfer these into Fusion 360, and I've got access now to a CNC plasma table that's nearby, so I might just get them cut out like that, because it's going to make a very nice, neat looking finished panel. So I'll see how I go about getting them cut out, but for the time being, so now we have the back pad with the mounts cut out for the roll cage, and the hole which I made for my tunnel to fit my wiring loom and air conditioning lines. So that's all there ready to go. So I'm going to glue the top down, and I'm going to leave the back pad as just a just a flap to work under gravity. I think that's going to be a better way of being able to access things when I need to, because obviously I need to be able to get into these holes to bolt the shocks in and things like that. You can do it from the boot, but it's going to be it's much easier to just get straight down through there. So we'll glue this down, and then we'll get onto the remainder of the footwells and this back passenger section. All right, so I made my rough measurements. I took them away and got my mate to cut them out. The CNC plasma tables are really coming down in affordability. I'm looking at something to get, because it's such a handy piece of gear, but there are companies where you can send your files away and get them cut out and get them back pretty quickly anyway. So for something like this, it's so quick and easy. I'll show you the design. The design took me 3 minutes. To make the design, and it takes the machine about a minute to cut it out. So I've got the rough shapes here now. I need to put a couple of bends in them, and then these can be fit up, and they've got little covers in there ready to roll. I am such a fan of being able to just draw something up in Fusion 360 and get it cut out and have these perfect fitting pieces, a couple of little folds, and they fit beautifully. That is a perfect little panel. Obviously, they're going to come in and out, and they need to be painted. I also need to do something about these holes up here, because that's where the window actuators for the rear quarter windows opening and closing go. So that will be sorted out when I put them in for the final time. But that's looking good. All right, well, that is actually a lot more time than I expected, but it's all completely covered now. I have the entire interior covered, besides the door panels and the sort of rear panels here. All the sound deadening is in. This I've still left loose, and once I put the rear panels on, it will hold down nice and firmly. I've still got to put the wiring in, and there's a bunch of bits and pieces to still go, obviously, on this car before it's on the road, but the sound deadening part is looking good. So I think that means it's time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, in 2005, after almost 18 years of silence, Ferrari admitted to the existence of a very rare model, the F90. In 1988, a secret project run by Enrico Fumia, the head of research and development at Pininfarina, designed and built 6 custom Ferraris for the Sultan of Brunei. All 6 F90s were based on Ferrari Testarossa chassis, with Pininfarina designing and building an extremely futuristic body with a complicated sliding roof. The only body parts carried over from the Testarossa were the wheels and the mirrors. The engine and drivetrain was standard Testarossa with 390 horsepower, but the radiators were moved to the front of the car. F90, meaning Ferrari of the 90s, is truly one of the rarest Ferraris to ever have been built, and it's not known exactly how many are still in existence, but they are believed to still be in the collection of the Sultan of Brunei.
All right, it's getting closer, and finally I have the paint done. It's good enough. The bonnet and the boot is done, and we can move on from that stage, and now we have the bulk of the sound deadening done in the interior. So it's getting there. I'm just putting things on the car. I like it.
It's great. Yeah, I like it too.
There's obviously, there's still a few things to be sorted out along the way when we start tackling the interior a bit more, but it's definitely coming together. I still need to go back over and also sort of cover over those seams and sort of seal in all the seams in the sound deadening, just so that it is a nice solid seal. Like I said, it's like a bucket, and you really, any little gaps, if water can get through, then the sound can get through. So that's something I will do as I go back through when I'm doing the carpet and things like that. But we're very close. We're close to getting to more and more fun stuff.
Fun stuff. Excellent. Like and subscribe if you haven't. And let Jeff know what you think of his videos. He loves your comments, and, well, most of them. And please, you want to support him on Patreon, and you can see the videos a day early with no ads. Woohoo!
Yep.
And
we'll see you next week.
See you soon.
See you guys.
These were based on Ferrari's Pininfarina chassis. F90s were based on Ferrari's Testarossa. All 6 F90s were based on Ferrari's Testarossa chassis.
Not Testarossa, just Testarossa.
These were based on Ferrari's Testarossa chassis. Oh, hay fever.
You know that's a blooper.